Welcome, everybody. Today is our first day of IT and Business for summer of 2025. We're here at the Racine campus in room T304. And my name is Takis Kinnis, and I am the chair of the IT department here at Gateway. I predominantly teach in the web software program, the AI data analytics program, and I also oversee all the other programs and their curriculum development and scheduling and everything. I know a lot about IT. I've been working in IT for a very long time now, multiple degrees and things, and I explain all that in my welcome message inside the course. My goal to start out with, as this first part of class is what I'm required to do by college policy and actually federal law, which is to go through the syllabus and let you know what you're about to learn and what policies and procedures we're going to follow in the classroom. The syllabus must be acknowledged. So you're going to have to, there's a little discussion board inside the course where you have to go in and say, hey, I saw the syllabus, I have received it, I'm all good. And if you don't do that, I'm just letting you know this up front, I will not grade anything else that you submit. It's also really important, and I want you guys to be aware of this, that homework here and activities are not optional. They are required, right? As is your presence here in the classroom. You guys signed up for a face-to-face class here in person, so I expect you want to be here every week, and you should be here every week. And I know that it can be burdensome in the summer because it's so beautiful outside that, it's the middle of the day and here we are inside a building. But you know what? When it's going to be 95 and humid, we're going to be very fortunate to be inside this building. And today is one of those days where it's like humid and muggy and stormy and weird outside. So please make sure that you show up every week. Try to be here on time before class starts, and I'm going to give you an incentive to be here early. At the beginning of every class session from here on in, we will start the class with what we call a Kahoot. Some people know what that is, some people don't. It's basically an online quiz that we do collaboratively in class. I'll put a question up on the screen. Everybody logs into Kahoot, and either on their phone, tablet, computer, whatever device you have sitting in front of you, you answer the question. If you answer quickly and correctly, you can win the Kahoot. And if you win the Kahoot on any given day, you get an extra credit point, which is a good thing, right? So if you come to the beginning of class, you'll catch the Kahoot. If you're late, you might miss it. I'm just telling you that up front. Because we're doubling up in speed here, this is an accelerated class. We'll actually do 2 Kahoots each session to kind of cover all the different chapters. So we are going to move at roughly twice the speed of a regular course. Don't freak out to that. The material is not really that heavy, right? It's really mostly reading, listening, absorbing, and providing opinions generally, right? So there's not like highly technical like programming or hardware work to do in here, anything like that. I'm going to first introduce you to Brightspace. This is what we call a learning management system. It's basically a website creation and proctoring tool that allows us to deliver your course content. All the course materials are delivered here. All the assignments are listed here along with the due dates, and all the work you submit will be done through this interface in Brightspace. Come on in, have a seat.
IT and business, right?
Yes. I'm going to begin by kind of logging into what I think are the key areas of the course. Like when you first land in Brightspace, and if you're not familiar with how to get to Brightspace, I suppose I should explain that. You can go to the Gateway website, and I don't think I'm sharing my screen, am I? And that's not being recorded, so that's going to be really wonderful. All right. It says here I am, so I'm gonna take it on faith that it's working. And I'm kind of fumbling with my mouse here, multiple screening. Okay, I just want to make sure that it's being broadcast. All right, folks. So the first thing I'm going to do is take you here to the Gateway website. And if you're not sure how to get to Brightspace, go to the Gateway website, click on the My Gateway link up here at the top. I don't know if you guys can see that. And then when you go into that interface, there's a bunch of different what we call tiles in here. By the way, I'm not a super huge fan of this interface. I liked our old system a lot better. But you can scroll through this. I have very different tiles than you do, but somewhere inside here, there's this quick links panel, and Brightspace is listed right here. I do want you guys to also notice in that quick links panel that there's links to Office 365. If you need access to an Office suite, we'll talk about that. That's pretty important. There's also access to LinkedIn Learning, which is a video course platform that I highly recommend for IT people. There's spots here where you can submit support tickets, et cetera, right? But for you, just to get into Brightspace, this would be your portal in. I'm already logged in, and when you land inside of Brightspace, and depending on how many courses you're taking, you usually see an interface like this for your semester up at the top, and then the individual courses that you are taking at the time. We are, of course, in IT and business, and this is section 107011 1RMA, which designates that we're at the Racine campus in a face-to-face mode, but technically we are blended. And what this means is that we're technically half online and half in person. If we were full on face-to-face, we would be here 8 hours per week for this class for the amount of instruction that we have. Now, what I do to kind of compensate for that is there are a bunch of videos and readings and things that you'll do on your own time outside of class. And then when we come to class, our focus is going to be to kind of reinforce the materials that you're reading and investigating on your own. So what's really helpful, and I'm saying this up front, is if we are going to cover, let's say, 2 chapters next week, that you read those chapters in advance of coming to class and do the homework before the class hits. That would be the ideal. Now, typically, most people will do the homework after class, and that's fine because it'll still fit the due date. But in the ideal scenario, you're coming in prepared to talk about the materials. When I lecture on things, I will lecture on the current materials for the week, and we're doing a Kahoot. And if you want to win that Kahoot, right? I mentioned this before. It's better if you read the chapter already, because then you can probably guess at some of the answers, but if you read, you'll know the answers. But all the answers for the Kahoots do come straight up from our textbook, generally speaking, or from things we discussed in class. All right. So as I land in the course, so this is what we call our course homepage. Now, mind you, I'm a web developer by trade. That's where I come from the IT world. I freelanced for a really long time, got into teaching quite a long time ago as well. And whenever I look at this interface, all right, I'll be really honest and harsh, I hate this homepage. I hate tiles, the way space, I hate the way it looks, the whole bit, right? So whenever you get to the course homepage, what I tell my students right away, you want to see what the course really looks like, you click on the content link at the top. That puts you where all the materials in the course are, right? And when you land in there, I think it kind of, I don't know how it loads up for you guys. This is how it loads up for me. Please be mindful of the fact that I'm in instructor mode. So I have little edit buttons and stuff that you might not see. And just the content link up here if you're still looking for it. When you get into this interface, you will notice that the layout is basically this. There's a left sidebar where all the units of instruction are listed. For right now, only a couple of those are visible to you, right? So you'll see getting started, unit 1, and then you'll see this other stuff here at the bottom, syllabus calendar and instructor info and course resources. All the other stuff will be released incrementally as we move through the course. When we get to about mid-July, I'll probably release the remainder of the course so you guys can plan out your time. But generally speaking, I don't like to pre-release stuff because it kind of freaks people out. They're like, oh my God, look at all that homework. And then they throw up their hands and go, I give, and I don't want you to do that. This class is really not that hard, right? So let's just start with that. It's a lot of reading and listening, right? And then reading questions and providing opinions is generally what you're doing, and discovering information. We are in a really exciting time in IT. IT, if you thought it was exploding in the past, with the advent of generative AI that's happening right now, the whole field is transforming at a pace I've never seen before. And here's what's going to happen. Either you get on board with it and learn how to ride that AI monster or whatever you want to call it, or you let it swallow you up. And I'm much more of the opinion, let's be the ones that run this instead of the ones that are affected by it, right? So that's why you guys are here. Usually I strongly discourage my students from using generative AI to do homework, especially in a class like this, where you'll get a question and they're asking your opinion. It's not, Gen AI has its own opinion that's probably flawed or it's imagining or something. I really want to hear your opinion, right? So I'm not looking for Gen AI perfection. There are temptations in IT to use AI to cheat, right? This is a really huge issue. But at the same time, professionally, people are using AI constantly to accelerate their workflow, myself included, right? For example, I was working to revise an exam for one of my other classes, and I realized some of the questions weren't working, so I deleted them all. I'm like, all right, got to recreate all these. I went to a Gen AI engine to help me create a pool of like 20 or 30 questions. I cherry picked some, tweaked a few, and then I was done instead of spending like half the day doing that, right? So I did my work in 1 hour instead of 8. But that's the kind of advances. Is that cheating? No, because I made sure it was all good, right? And I could have done all the work myself, but there's only so many hours in the day. So it's a matter of being smart. For example, is it cheating to Google something? No, right? Nobody tries to remember anything. Who was that guy in that movie? I don't know. Hey, Google, who was that guy in that movie? And boom, got it, right? And some of you may already be toying with those AI engines. Now, I'm going to begin here.
I need more information to tell you who that guy is. To help me identify him, please tell me. 1. What movie are you talking about?
All right. See, that burns you every time, right? Because I have Gemini turned on my phone, and if I utter the phrase, hey, I'm going to say a couple more words. Google, put those 2 words together. My phone starts to listen even if it's turned off and will respond to me. Right? I don't know if you guys do that too. I sometimes do that as a joke in class. And I actually once went to an IT conference where there was a speaker, and this is right when Siri came out. And he was like, hey, Siri. And everybody's phone in the audience is like, beep, 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 beep. Like it was hilarious. So just be mindful of that. All right. I'm going to first take us, now that we're in the table of contents here, or in the content area of the course, our target is to go to unit 0. Right? Not unit 1, but unit 0 to get started. And I have the unit entitled that, as you can see on my screen here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rifle through all the materials in this unit, because this is a unit of instruction with some tasks to complete. The primary mission is to go through the syllabus. I do want, as I'm kind of going through this, to kind of show you how this works. The way that you choose to operate Brightspace is highly subjective, right? Some people will operate it one way, some people will operate it a different way. The way that I set up my courses, and you guys should be aware of this, might not be the same way other instructors set up their courses. Sometimes we share course shells, we call them, and sometimes people come up with very, very different approaches, especially when you leave the IT areas and go to like, take an English class or a math class or something. Be really mindful of how those teachers operate, because it's a lot different than how we operate here in IT, generally speaking. All right, so I'm going to ask just a really weird question. Why do I start my unit folder numbers at 0 and not 1? Why would a computer guy start at 0 and not 1? It's okay if you guys don't know the answer. So every once in a while I get somebody who's like, oh, I know why. And here's the why. We use the base 10 number system because we have 10 fingers, right? Somebody's like, oh, hey, let's start counting them. 1, 2, they get, give each one a name, and they start counting with the number 1, right? But when you get up to the number 9, right, you count to 9, and you go to 10, what does a 10 look like? 1, 0. So how many digits are there in the base 10 number system? Well, there's 10, but the first one is 0. Computers know that, and they always start counting at 0. So it's kind of to reinforce a point. So like when you guys go into programming, and all of you will have a little bit of programming in your pathway, you'll learn this this very important feature that when computers start to count, they start at the number 0 because that's the first number, not 1. Okay, we don't have a 0 finger, but we can imagine it, I suppose, right? You can just get rid of those fingers. But that's why I do that. Also, it's kind of a superfluous unit. It's informational mostly to help get you grounded in the course. You'll see that I have a little course description here. This stuff is reiterated in the syllabus, which we're going to look at in just a moment. And then I have a welcome message here that I'm hoping that you guys read, right? If you don't want to, whatever, that's fine. It just provides some basic information about the course, a little bit about my background and how we operate. So please take a moment to read through that. I'm also scrolling down now to the video section, and right now I'm recording, right? So by tomorrow, this video that I'm recording right now will be posted here in the new video portion of this listing, so that if for some reason you want to relive the glory of this moment, you could bring back that video and do it. Or more importantly, I'm seeing that we have we're missing one person here today. So that person who knows what the situation is, they can watch that video and get what they missed. That's kind of really the point of it. And that's why when I do record, I'm very selective about what I record. I record the important parts of class. So I'm not going to record like a Kahoot or a discussion that we have, but I will record like a lecture or a demonstration or something. A lot of what we will do in this class, real frankly, is discussion based. We're going to talk about these topics a lot to kind of get you like learning about them and getting enthused about them, I'm hoping, right? You will notice that I usually have archive videos in here too. So from the last few times I taught the course, like the really old ones I get rid of, but if it's like within a year or so old, or if I thought I did a really good job of it, I keep that video in there. And a lot of it is really kind of customized to that semester. So if you watch a syllabus thing from last fall, that's a 14-week semester. They have a whole, like 6 extra weeks over what we do. We only have 8 weeks to do what we're doing. Right? So that's kind of a little bit of a difference. All right, so we are getting down to the syllabus area here. And then when you get through this, this will lead you to a discussion board. So you don't really want to click this quite yet. But if you want to find the syllabus, as I say here, look at the left sidebar and you'll see a little entry that says syllabus, calendar, and instructor info. So left sidebar, and then get to that area. Now I'm going to go through this section because this is kind of, as I said, required of me in my job that I do this. I provided a link here to the syllabus, and you can click on that. You can pull it up on your screen. I will not, and by the way, there's no paper in this classroom. I've been doing paperless teaching since the 90s, by the way. Wouldn't accept a piece of paper and I would freak people out. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you won't take my paper? And like, please email it to me. But what's email? But how times have changed, right? I do have some people that do print them, and I think that's kind of interesting. So if you want to do that, go for it. If you want to download and save it, go for it. But this link will be what I call the living version of the syllabus. So if I find an error in the syllabus today, or if you guys find an error in the syllabus, please let me know and I'll update it. And that link will reflect it as soon as I do the update on it. All right, I'm going to zoom in on this just a tad. And I'm going to go through all the sections. And I apologize in advance because this is kind of boring and dry, real frankly. But at the same time, you're going to get a lot of really important information about how we operate, what my expectations are, how you're going to be graded, timelines, college policies, etc. So we are here in IT and Business. IT and Business is a class that takes a look at how information technology is utilized and incorporated in enterprise and organizational environments to drive the organization and drive change, right? Maybe 50, 60 years ago, IT was not really that important in enterprise environments, and now it's a critical part. For example, if our network goes down here on campus, we're kind of done. We can't do anything. We can't be on Zoom. We can't teach classes. Nobody can get the bright space. You can't pay your bill. You can't look at your schedule. You know what I mean? So we rely heavily on our technology here. And Gateway, by the way, is very well equipped technologically, right? Even the desktop computers that you see here, they constantly upgrade them. The other thing that I'll say is that if there are outages, they usually notify you by email. And one real critical thing up front is make sure you guys are checking your student email often. I will not reach out to you through any other communication mechanism. In a really rare circumstance, I might try to call or text you, but I really do not like to do that. I think that's very obtrusive. But then it's your responsibility to make sure that you check email. When you're active in a course, frankly, I think you should be checking it daily, at least once a day, even if it's just a quick look. You can load up the Gmail system because our system is based on the Google platform. You can add that account to your phone. So if you already have a Gmail account, you can add a second one and look at it on your phone. That might get a little obnoxious for some. I assure you it's not very obtrusive because you don't have to leave the email program running on your device, but it's very easy to add. But just please make sure that you check email, because if I do announcements, updates, changes in due dates, or anything important going on, that's how I'm going to reach out to you. Right. It is summer of 2025. This is what we call a late start course, meaning that we don't start at the beginning of the semester, which is, I think it was May 5th that we started summer classes. This is June 18th, so we're well into the summer already. And the course will end on Wednesday, August 6th at the end of the day there at 4:50 p.m. We will meet every Wednesday here in person from 12:50 p.m. to 4:50 p.m. I will have office hours directly before class. So I will be here from 11:45 onwards. If you guys need to come in for help, or you just want to come and sit in the classroom and do your work or whatever, I will be here. Those office hours also extend to Zoom. So during those office hour periods, I might have people from my other classes jumping in on Zoom, or maybe even coming in person. It's an open office hour. I do that so that I can connect with you and help you. So if you have questions, and you might not want to ask them during class time, I get it. You can come during office hours, and if need be, we can go to a different room or whatever to work out those details. We are inside the technical building here at the Racine downtown campus. This is really kind of a cool site. I don't know if you guys have ever been to this campus before. All the buildings are interconnected with a tunnel system. So in the winter, or if it's raining or whatever, you don't even need to go outside, right? I usually park in the lot that's right adjacent to the technical building entrance down Lakeside. And there's usually not a problem to find a parking spot, typically, especially in the summer. In the fall, it will get a lot busier, by the way. This is room T304, and this is one of my favorite room styles to teach in because of all the monitors on the wall. And now that they've upgraded the monitors and the computers, hey, who's to complain, right? These are nice, really large, ultra-wide monitors. My Zoom link is provided here in the syllabus too. So whenever I'm in class, that link is active and broadcasting the way I'm broadcasting right now. If you guys happen to log into Zoom while we're in the classroom, please mute your microphone and mute your speakers, because we got speakers and microphones here, and it'll start to cycle and feedback, and you'll know it when you're doing it. And we'll probably point fingers and laugh as you try to race to mute your stuff. One reason why people do tap into the Zoom is to be able to see my screen better. That's usually not a problem in here. But like if you were in one of the rooms, like at the end of the hall, where it's like one screen in front and you're sitting in the back row, it might actually get kind of hard to see it, right? Especially if you're height challenged and you can't see over the monitors, or you bad eyesight or whatever. So that's the other reason I use it. Another reason I use Zoom in the classroom is if you have something cool on your screen and you're in the session, I can pull your screen and put it up on everybody else's screen. So that's kind of cool, and record it into the video if needed. So it's really kind of a useful tool. There's a chat mechanism in there, annotation tools, a whiteboard, all this crazy stuff. But mostly we're just going to use it so that we can see each other's screens, right? And it's pretty helpful and cool, and for recording. All right. All right. So you guys probably, saw my name on your schedule and you're like, oh, great, this guy's not going to speak English. Sorry to disappoint you. I speak it just fine. If you're wondering how the name is pronounced, in Greek, it's Takis. Just like,
Mexican chips.
yeah, well, I was just going to say that. And you know what? Nobody knew how to say my name until those chips came up, by the way. Right? Yeah. And now that the chips are out, I can just say, hey, it's just like these. So it's like, oh, Takis. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Now, real frankly, here at Gateway, everybody calls me Ty, because in Greek, when you say my name, if you talk about me, you keep the S. You say Takis, right? If you talk to me, you omit the S and you just say Taki, right? And when I was a kid, mind you, I was born here in the States, but English is not my first language. Greek was my first language. So when I went to school, it was like, baptism by fire to learn English really, really quickly. Thank you, Mr. Rogers, actually. And the teacher, very strong Southern accent, said, "Hun, what's your name?" And I said, "Taki." And she said, "Taiki," with like Mikey or something like that. And it stuck. And so a lot of my friends know me as Taiki, but everybody here at Gateway calls me Ty because I think that's easier to explain. Whatever. You call me whatever you want. Mr. Kinnis is probably too steep, but Ty is usually what I prefer around here. Just so I prefer to be on a first name basis with everybody. All right, my email address is provided here. And whenever I send out announcements through Brightspace, just be mindful that if you want to email me about those announcements, you want to email me directly. Don't reply to those because they go to like some pool system that I don't see. I do have a phone number here. Frankly, I never answer it because it's on my desk in the other room, and I'm never on campus. This is the first time I've been teaching on campus since spring of 24, by the way. So I mostly teach online. One of my job perks is that I schedule myself, and I prefer to teach from home, and I prefer Zoom generally. I kind of miss the classroom at times, but I don't miss the drive because I live up in Milwaukee, so it's a good hour commute for me. If you do happen to call, leave a voicemail, that will get emailed to me, and then I'll see it. You can also text that number, but as I discovered the other day, one of my friends was texting me there. I'm like, "What are you doing texting me there?" He says, "Well, it was on your business card." And I said, "Yeah, but I'd never look at that." And sure enough, I go back and there was like 20 messages from him. So it's not a platform I really check, and I really don't use that as a communication mechanism typically with the students. Sometimes we will use the phone as a backup. Like, why? Because Zoom's not working. But if I meet with you when we're outside of the classroom, I'm like, "Hey, I'm having a problem with my homework. Can we talk about it?" I will put you on Zoom. If you don't want to have cameras on, that's fine, but at least we can hear each other, and if need be, share screens. And I can also remote control your computer if necessary using Zoom. So that's our meeting mechanism. But once again, I will be in the classroom here in person. If you do want to find me in my office, you go down the hall, turn left by the doors, and right before you go out the doors, there's a door right there. That's the faculty offices. Very quiet during the summertime. When I'm teaching here in person, I usually like to be in the classroom more than at my desk, real frankly. So I'll come here every Wednesday morning and prep for class and be here for office hours if you guys want to find me. If need be, we can always talk after class or during breaks. And that's another thing I'm just going to say up front. This is a long class. 4 hours is a long stretch. We will take 1 break per hour. First break will be 5 minutes. The second break will be 10 minutes. The third break will be 5 minutes. And if I see you guys like doing what you're doing there, like falling asleep and yawning and not having enough caffeine or whatever, I'll take that as a hint. I should let's move it along. Right. So I'll be mindful of that, but also that you might, need a break. So I'll be mindful of that. If you guys need to go to the bathroom's at the far end of the hall. There's also a bubbler there. If you're looking for a vending machine, first floor where you came in the building, or you can walk through the tunnel system, go over to the cafeteria area. They are having a big Juneteenth event today, and I think it's probably over already. I don't know if any of you attended that or not. I was hoping to go, but I just didn't get over there. But they do have like a coffee bar and the cafeteria. In the summertime, that stuff's pretty quiet, but in the fall, you can go there and get a really nice lunch for really cheap. And I'm kind of a fan, right? And it helps the students that are learning culinary. So just be mindful of that. If at any point you need to step out for any reason, Like you forgot something in the car and you go to the bathroom and need a beverage and you just to decompress. Just get up and do it. You don't need to ask permission, right? It's not high school, you know? So that's on you, basically. All right, let's get into the course materials now. Here's a course description. It's a very basic one, but we're basically looking, as I mentioned before, at a survey of information technology. What is it? Where does it come from? What does it do? What direction are we moving? How do companies utilize it? What are the important technologies? What are the developing technologies, et cetera, right? And more importantly, you're going to learn a ton of IT terminology and concepts. Maybe not in practice, but in theory, that when you get presented with them in your other courses, you go, oh, that's what a database is, you know, that type of thing. So just be mindful of that. So we do have a required textbook, and I'm going to say up front, I apologize for that, right? And here's why. My two programs that I teach in the web software and AI data analytics, we made decisions in those programs to remove all textbooks, with the exception of one course. This degree program, the CSS program, does have books, and the software program does have books that you have to buy. My strong recommendation, if you have not bought this book yet, don't buy it. That's the first recommendation. Rent it. Rent it for the semester and then let it go. If you do buy it, look for a used copy. Physical copies, by the way, do not come bound in a book format like this. You're going to get these like loose leaf papers with 3-hole punches, and then you got to put it in a binder. I think it's a ripoff. I'm just saying that up front. I'd rather see you rent the book. So if you haven't done that transaction yet, you want to do it, but don't wait to get your book, because we hit it hard and fast. We're doing chapter 1 today, right? Next week we're doing chapter 2 and 3. So if you don't have it, you're going to be hampered.
Is the book at the bookstore?
It is at the bookstore, physical copies if you want to buy them. And if you don't want to buy the physical one, you can rent it from there too.
Oh.
Okay, and you got yours from Amazon. Okay. And there's no rule that you have to buy it from the bookstore. The one reason why you do buy it from the bookstore is then you can use your financial aid. Question?
For the digital copy, right?
Say that again.
For the digital copy,
Where do you print the code? Is that
where you print the digital copy?
I'm still not understanding you. I apologize. Can you?
For the digital copy.
For the digital copy?
Yeah.
What code are we speaking about?
For the digital book.
I'm not really sure what you're asking. I'm gonna be real frank. Right. If you buy or rent an ebook, they'll give you a sign-in to get to the book. That's how I do mine. Yeah. So like, for example, if you go to the bookstore or if you just do it online, you rent and buy an ebook, they'll have you, for example, I think I use Vital Source for it, or it's either Vital Source or Red Shelf or one of those platforms. They just set up an account, the book gets put into that account, and then you just log into a web browser and you can look at it. It's just like that. Yep. Okay. All right. So you went right to the publisher, basically. Yeah. If you have questions about it, you can really just go to the bookstore and they should be able to guide you. What I would do, and I'm just going to show you here on my screen, right? Like if you find the course in your schedule, and I'm doing this kind of in a, might not be the same mechanism you guys are using, but I'm doing this through my gateway. You get a listing of the course basically like this, and they provide you the bookstore information. So that'll come up on the screen here. Oh yeah, and see the book is not listed here, right? They just
it doesn't link to the bookstore. You can search for it right there, and it's going to say bookstore.
Yeah, it is closing. We have a new bookstore provider And the reason it's disconnected, so here's one of the downfalls of being a late start course. At the beginning of the semester, it was working.
Right.
But now that we're in the semester, it's not. So you guys are going to have to go to the bookstore. However, right, so here's the however. When you're looking at the actual syllabus, you can just take this ISBN number I have here, copy it, go to your browser, paste it in, and start shopping. Right? You don't have to buy it from the bookstore, right? You can get it from wherever is cheapest. And the strong recommendation is rent, don't buy, unless you can find a used copy that's really, really cheap. Now, here's the why. This type of material gets outdated pretty quickly, right? In fact, by the time a book gets published, it's usually finished about 2 years prior to the publish date. It's 2025 going to 2026. That's got a 2024 publish date. It's probably written 21, 22. Now, granted, it's a book that's been revised a bunch of times, and it's an excellent book with good material, but it's going to change constantly, and it's not really going to have any resale value. So if you're buying it hoping to resell it, it's really not really a good idea, generally. Right? Rent, don't buy, right? Electronic copies are better. I used to resist getting ebooks, and now I try not to get any physical books. Why? Because, you know, like this is a thin book, but like our old Java programming book is like 3 times as thick. And that was one class, and it was like $300, right? And you have to lug it around. If I can just pull all the same stuff up on the screen, I'll do that. One thing I do like about physical books that electronic books don't do, if I want to scroll really quickly to chapter 15, here I am. I can't do that with an ebook. Right. Also, nobody can change the content of this after it's published, which is kind of an interesting thought too. Right. If it's online and it's electronic, they can change whatever they want. They can change history. You know, is the thought. All right, so you do need to have the book. So if you don't have it yet, rent it, don't buy it, right? Ebook over physical book. Those are the preferences. And the moment you get it, start reading the first 3 chapters and the first tech guide, right? Because we're going to hit the material hard and fast. If you don't have the book, what's going to happen is you will start falling behind because all the homework is based on the book. Right? So you have to have the book contents and then the questions from the book to answer your homework. Now, in terms of the stuff that you need, and I will go into like specifics about what works well for computers in our programs, but basically you need some sort of a modern computer system, Windows, Mac, or Linux, whatever your platform is. I'm going to say no phones, no Chromebooks, no tablets in the IT program. Not that you can't do some stuff on those, but you are going to be significantly hampered with inferior capabilities. When you're in an IT program and you guys need to prepare for this, it's kind of like if you're learning to be a race car driver. You don't go out and buy some like underpowered like family sedan if you're a race car driver. You buy a hot rod with a souped up motor and big tires and you know what I mean, something that's ready to roll. IT is the same way. If you don't have good tools, right, you will be hampered, just like somebody who works in the trades, right? If you're a professional carpenter, you buy a great hammer. You buy the $100 hammer, not the $10 hammer. Right? And that's the mindset you guys should have. You need to have Office to some sort of an office suite. Typically, that'll be Microsoft Office. That's still the industry standard. But a lot of our students also work with Google Docs or Google Sheets. And I'm okay that you use either one. I will show you how to access both. Google products, of course, work in your browser. Microsoft products do as well, but with the Microsoft products, you can download them for free as Gateway students. So you can get Microsoft Office installed on your computer at no cost, which is great because it's not a cheap product, by the way. You have to have some way to store your files. I'll give you guys recommendations about that as we move forward. In fact, we'll do a whole little spiel on it. But generally speaking, what I disadvise people from doing is walking around with a flash drive or an external hard drive and saving your files that way. We're in the era of cloud storage. Your Gateway email account includes Google Drive. Your Gateway accounts also include Microsoft OneDrive for free. And you can use either one to store your files. I would prefer you to use Google Drive. right? I will, like I said, I'll do a whole thing about that. Also make sure that you have access to your email on a daily basis. The course competencies are what we are about to learn in the course. So this is like the bullet points that I teach to. So my goal is like when you walk out 8 weeks later, that you can address these bullets. However we get there. The book that we're using, by the way, we will go cover to cover. We're going through the whole darn thing, every last little bit of it, right? And I'm not one that likes to like, oh, that chapter's not important. No, I think they're all important. In fact, I think it's probably missing stuff. That's kind of my opinion on it. And by exposing yourself to all the concepts in that book, you might choose a different career path. I don't know, right? Or you might find a niche in the career path that you didn't even know existed, which is one of the reasons why we like to expose you guys. All right, let's get down to this section here, which is where most concern is for students, generally speaking. We grade you on basically a number of different things, and you can see kind of like the grading breakdown right there. We used to operate on a 15-week semester, so I should mention that, which is why I have 15 participation percentage points, basically. But the way that I look at it is you showing up to class, communicating, talking, being here, doing your work, that's participating. And you get a point for that, basically. And the way it'll work out is like 2 points a week or something like that, just for showing up, being here, communicating. We have assignments that we have to complete. Typically, assignments are broken into 3 categories. We have what we call article reflections, and we'll talk about those. Problem solving, which is answering some questions, and case studies, where we look at a scenario and answer questions about it. Right? And we usually have discussions about them all as well. So you'll have 3 deliverables per unit, typically. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, sometimes there's extra credit, but that's very typical. So for each unit of instruction, you'll have 3 things to complete. Now, given the fact that we're going to do 2 units a week, that's 6 deliverables a week. So I want you to think about that. So don't let them slide, because real frankly, they're easy to complete, right? But please make sure that you keep up with those due dates, because when you start missing the due dates, that's when your scores start coming down, all right? We also will have 2 quizzes and 2 exams. The first quiz will happen in a few weeks, and then we'll do our midterm exam. The second quiz will happen a couple weeks after that, and the final exam will happen at the end. The quizzes and exams are based on materials that I present either in the Kahoots or the book. The Kahoots are based on the book, so they all come from the book, basically. All exams and tests are done during your own time. So you're not going to come to the classroom. I'm like, all right, it's test time. And I walk out of the room and you guys just do your test. No, we don't have time for that. You have to do the test on your time. I'll give you a 1-week time frame that where I release it, and then by the end of that week it's due. And then if you miss the due date, and I want you to hear this carefully, quizzes and exams don't have late penalties. So if you miss the due date, no big deal, just still take it. You won't get penalized for being late. Same thing is true for article reflections, no late penalties. Problem solving and case studies, and I'll show you those when we get to them, those do have due dates and you want to adhere to them, right? So there's a little bit of flexibility, but I'll talk about my late policies here. Now, all of the points that you earn here and the way that I structure my courses is I use what I call a 100-point system, very different from a lot of instructors, by the way. So in other words, when you take this course, there's 100 points on the table. Each point is equal to 1% of your grade. You do all the work and you get 100% on all your work, you earn all your points, you have 100%, you got an A. It's really simple to calculate, right? The way that our IT programs work here is that in order for your course to count towards your degree program, and I want you to notice this little policy here. So if this is part of your CSS degree or your software developer degree or your network specialist or cybersecurity specialist degree, you are required to get 74 points or more in this class to get a C. If you do not, and I'm just telling you this up front, you will be forced to retake the course. A C minus is basically equivalent to an F, right? Way different than high school, right? In high school, I got a D minus, I'm all right, right? And how do I know that? I've been there. It's a horrible student in high school. Right? I was actually a horrible student in college when I first started too, by the way. I obviously revised my ways. I want you to be aware of this stuff, right? Because the way that I do the grading, like if there's a 2-point assignment and you go, I can't do it, all right, or I forgot, you know that the most points you're going to earn then is 98, right? It's very easy to calculate. Some instructors will use what we call weighted grading. They give you 100 points for every assignment, but that's worth 20% of your grade. That one's worth 60% of your grade, and they add them all together, and it's like real complicated. And it's hard to figure out what the impact of your assignment or thing is. With a point system, 100 points, you skip a 1-point assignment, well, you know that you're missing 1 point, 1%. Also, if you want to make up those points, Kahoot, win a Kahoot, or do some of the extra credit work as well to help boost your score, right? So if you get like a bad score in an exam, do some extra credit to make up the points you lost. That's right. That would be my recommendation. All right, so we have 2 exams, 2 quizzes. Tests are open note, open book, phone a friend, open internet, ask the AI, but I'm just going to give you a fair warning. The official answers for any quiz or test come from the book. That's the official answer repository. So if you're like asking, I don't know, ChatGPT, hey, what's the answer to number 5? And it gives you an answer and it's not the same one that's in the book. Well, be mindful, of when you're doing that. My thought would be for any of those testing mechanisms that if you paid attention in class, read the stuff you were supposed to read, have the book handy, there's no reason you should get any question wrong. That's my thinking. And you really should be able to do it without looking at the book. That's how I structured the questions. I get it. Maybe if there's 20 questions, you have to look up 1 or 2. Feel free to do that. Getting a bad score on a test or a quiz is not the end of the world. Those are just points in the whole stream of things, right? The other thing I do want to dispel, if you're kind of fresh out of high school or maybe have gone to a different institution, if you do really well on a midterm exam or a final exam, you don't get that grade for the course. So I've had high school students come in and say, well, I didn't do any homework, but I got an A on the midterm. How come I got an F? And it's like, well, you didn't do any of the work, right? I want you to keep in mind we're a technical college. A technical college, I like to think of technical colleges as do-it schools. Other schools talk about it, we do it. We code, we build networks, whatever the thing is, we're doing it. And why do we do that? We want you to do the work to be prepared to go out into the workplace and have somebody hire you. You go, oh, you're a Gateway grad? We're going to hire you. And I'm going to tell you what, and this is why this is a really wise choice for you guys. Most of the companies in Racine, Kenosha, and Walworth County, that's our region, that have IT departments and have IT staff, most of those people studied here. So Gateway opens doors. When you go apply for a job, and like, oh, you went to Gateway. Oh, okay, great. Let's interview you. You must be good. That's their mindset. And they know that you're prepared to do work. And let's face it, employers want to hire you to show up and do the task, right? And here's the other beautiful thing about IT, if you guys haven't thought about this. IT, it's very capable, and I say this especially to my young students, that you can get a 2-year degree, go out and work in the field, and make more money than your parents. Right out of the gate, right? It's totally possible. And IT will provide you full-time work with family supporting wages with great benefits. And there's a huge, huge demand for people in IT. There's no shortage of people needing IT people. More now than ever, by the way, right? So you guys are doing the right thing by studying this. All right, when you do your homework, all the assignments are due on the due date as shown in Brightspace, right? If you miss that due date, then it's on the table that I will start taking points away from the assignment. So in order to maximize your points, turn it in before the due date, right? If it's after, okay, so I'll be real frank. Most of the due dates are like midnight, right? I'm not sitting there at 12:01 a.m. waiting to grade your paper, right? So if it's there by the next morning, fine. I probably won't even give you a late penalty. If it's a day or two late, you'll see a few points decline. If it's a week late, it's 25% off. If it's 2 weeks late or more, the most you're going to earn is half the points. It's not negotiable, right? Here's the offer I give them. If you're working on something, the due date's upon you, and you go, darn, I'm not done yet. Turn in what you have, show me that you're working by the due date, and I'll give you another week to turn it in with no late penalty. How about that? Right? So that's kind of your safety net. I just want to see that you're in progress with it, right? Missing a due date and getting it in a couple days late is not really the end of the world. So if you had like a 2-point assignment, I might drop the score to like 1.8 or 1.75. Not the end of the world. Right? So don't freak out to that stuff. But please try to meet the due dates and keep up with the pacing of the class, because it really helps. Quizzes and exams don't have due dates. You can be late on those and not lose points. You just can't go past the end of the course. Article reflections don't have due dates, but it behooves you to get them done so we can have discussions about them. So just be mindful of those things. If you do have something going on in your life that is preventing you from being successful in school, and believe me, I've been doing this a long time. I've heard all sorts of crazy stories from people, weird life occurrences, at house fires, I'm living in my car, I have no money, whatever. I had to go to jail, whatever. I've heard it all. You have to let me know. If you let me know that there's something going on, I can work with you and accommodate your situation. If you don't let me know what's going on and you just stop showing up, you're not doing your work, I have no choice but to just grade you on that. But if you talk to me, we can work something out. And by the way, it doesn't have to be in front of everybody. Wait, email me, let's step aside and we can work it out. If you do need a little bit of a safety net, so I have this late work exception. I have a get out of homework free coupon. How about that, folks? It's a single-use thing, right? I will remind you again, probably at the beginning of August, that this is there. The way that you use it is you come into the syllabus, you take a screenshot of that coupon, and you submit it in place of one assignment, and you get 2 points. Problem solving and case studies are the ones you use that for, not articles, not quizzes and exams, not for participation, not for extra credit, right? Just regular assignments, which are problem solving and case studies in this class. And it happens like, oh, I was really busy, I didn't get to that homework. All right, I'll just throw the coupon at it and just roll, no big deal. But it's a single use, just a little safety net. So just keep in mind that it's there. If you do have stuff that happens to you, right, like I said, communicate it to me. But I have had students, and the one that was the weirdest, and I said a house fire before. I had a lady who was in a house fire, a car accident, lost her son, all in the course of like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, really hardcore. And she's a great student. She's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to finish. I'm going to drop. And I'm like, why? You got almost all the work done. So I gave her an incomplete, gave her a bunch of extra time, and she was able to finish up. However, to get an incomplete, you have to be a student in good standing. You got to be showing up. You got to be doing your work. And then something happens to you, you let me know, and I'll work with you. If I see, and I'm just letting you guys know this up front, that the course is kind of a train wreck for you or whatever, and you're not like meeting expectations, I will reach out to you, right? And let you know, hey, like what's going on? You need some time, you need some help, you have questions, whatever. And I'll do whatever I can to help you out. So please be mindful of that. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to help you, And my grading style, real frankly, is very non-punitive. I don't really try to punish people. I really sincerely want you guys to learn. And I tell my students, heck, if I can make it in this field, you guys can make it in this field, right? And I'll tell you all sorts of stories about that. General grading policies are turn it in on time, do it correctly as instructed, and you will get all your points. If it's late, not correct, incomplete, or something like that, points will diminish. Often, I might give you the chance to fix your work to get all the points. So that's going to be on the table as well. We do have some key dates here to look at, and don't worry, we're just about done with this, and then we'll take a break. I know you guys are getting antsy. Our start and end dates are listed here. The last day to drop and get some sort of a refund is, well, next week. You don't have a lot of time. So if you don't want to take this course and you want out, you have until June 26th to do so. If you do see that the course is a train wreck and you're not going to pass and you don't even want to try, you have until July 28th to withdraw. And the reason I bring this up is, let's say you're doing horribly, and if you're not going to do anything and you're going to get an F. You don't want that. Because when you get an F in college, it goes on your transcript, and your college transcripts are permanent records. So you go to another school, they'll see that F, and it affects your GPA. If you know you're not going to pass the course, withdraw. You get a W on your transcript, no impact on GPA. Right? So if we're like late July and I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to pass, there's no chance for you, I'm going to say, hey man, you should withdraw. Right? Very rarely happens, by the way, but I just want to, you should be on your radar. We also have a census date, which clearly we're past, but that's just to make sure you guys show up during basically the first couple of weeks of the semester. The date makes no sense for this course because it's a month ago. Also, no midterm grades will be posted for this class, which come up this Friday because we just started, right? But it's still listed here. I do have an instructor drop period. So if you haven't come to class, haven't done any work, haven't communicated, haven't logged into Brightspace, and don't respond to my communication requests by the 27th, and really by July 3rd, I have the right to drop you from the course. I utilize that very, very seldom. In fact, the whole time I've been here, maybe once or twice, right? So show up, basically, right? You guys paid to be here, so I expect that you want to succeed. I do have a rough course calendar. This is also in the course shell in the same spot where we found the syllabus that shows what chapters we're covering each week. And I know that's a little hard to see on that screen, so I'll just click it in one level of zoom. But if you notice, we're basically covering 2 chapters a week, and then things kind of stack up towards the end where we're covering a whole bunch of stuff at once. Right. So this is so that, like, you know, it's like, what should I be reading this week? You know, and I'm telling you, by next week, you should be finished with chapter 3. That's how far we're going to go by next week. Right. All right. That's the rough course calendar. And then I have here, and this is, I'm going to say a little blurry because of the way I screenshotted it. This is a complete listing of all the assignments, their due dates, and their point values for the entire course as planned today, right? I just put the due dates in. I just revised the points. But if you go down the list here, there's a complete listing of what kind of assignment it is, what unit it's part of, the due date, and the point value, right? And you can see that totals up to 100, right? So this will go pretty quick. Notice how many deliverables you'll have per week. Like you'll see here, there's like 6 deliverables, you know, kind of like that. So be mindful of that. There are some activities we will do in class, and some assignments we'll just do in class. And I'll be real frank, I reserve the right to go, you know what, we're going to throw that one away, or we're going to change it to this, or we're going to do this instead. And that'll be dynamic as we go. But right now, this is my plan, right? And we will probably stick fairly close to this. But I do adjust things as we go, as I see fit, right? But if I change anything, I will announce it and let you guys know, both here in person and via email. All right. Syllabus was created today, just before class started. So what I need you guys to do at this point is to go back into the course shell here. And if you go back to Unit 0 and find the posting for the syllabus acknowledgement, this will take you to discussion board. And then what you do is you click on the title of the discussion board. And then once you're in there, click this button here that says start a new thread. And then say something, I don't know, like syllabus, maybe received or something like that. And then maybe just type me a quick message like, I have read the syllabus and I will obey, a No, I'm kidding. I have read the syllabus and understand. I know that's a stock joke from you, by the way. I'm glad you guys laughed. You know, that's a great way to earn extra credit too. Laugh at my jokes. They're horrible. All right. And then once you're done typing that in, you just hit post like that. I will see it in my grade book and I will give you a point. But as I mentioned before, if you don't perform this activity, I will not grade any of your other work. Right, so this is required because I need to know you received the syllabus. And you can see here, Anthony's done it already, Joe's done it already. And we will get to know each other after the break, by the way. So we are at a logical stopping point right now. I am going to pause this video because I'm going to resume and do a little more intro stuff. And then after that, we'll have another break and then we'll go into materials. All right. When we come back, and I'm just going to like freak you guys out a little bit, we're going to have our first Kahoot right after the break, in which you can earn your first extra credit point, by the way. Now you're going to say, what are you going to Kahoot us on? The syllabus. To see if you paid attention at all. All right. So folks, we're going on break. I'll see you in about 5 minutes. All right, we're back from break, and I did want to kind of touch base on a couple of things here, most notably in the syllabus calendar and instructor info sidebar link. Once again, access to the syllabus will always be there. I have a reiteration of the course calendar. This is the rough course calendar, like what topics we're covering each week, what things are basically due, and then an exact listing of all the assignments and due dates and course points as they are set today here, the day that we're starting class. Article reflections technically don't have late penalties. Quizzes and exams don't have late penalties. Problem solving and case studies do. Just reiterating that. This is just kind of a handy reference to see how the point values lay. My philosophy generally is lots of assignments worth a small amount of points as opposed to like a few assignments worth a lot of points. Problem solving is generally answering questions and maybe doing research. Case studies are reading and giving opinions, right? So there's kind of right answers, but it's mostly opinions and the results of your research is what those assignments are. We'll talk about article reflections in a little bit. In this folder, I also have my schedule of like when I'm on site and when I'm teaching. You'll notice that big green box in the middle, that's us. That's a 4-hour stretch every Wednesday. And the little yellow box above it are my office hours, which will be held here in the classroom and on Zoom the hour preceding class. If you need extra help, whatever, you just want to come and sit in the room, you're just welcome to come in. If I'm here and the door's open, just come on. Contact info is reiterated there, but also here. So here's all my info. This stuff's all in the syllabus as well, but I provided here just in case you don't want to look at the syllabus. So a phone number, email, and the Zoom link. If you guys end up using Zoom at some point, it's generally preferred, and I'm just saying this out loud, to download and install the Zoom app. That's a better way to do it. If you want, you can also do it through your browser without installing anything. But I think if you're like on a mobile device, you have to install the app, if I'm not mistaken. One strategy I do give to people when they're Zooming is, because a lot of us are gamers, right? In computing, it's like, I don't have a camera or a microphone. Well, you probably have a microphone, but maybe not a camera. Or you don't like to turn them on, right? Usually laptops will automatically have cameras and microphones, but if you do go on Zoom, expect to have your camera and your microphone on, right? So be in an appropriate environment, be in a quiet environment if you end up Zooming for any class. All right, I'm now going to take us back to Unit 0, and I want to finish up a couple of things here. Basically, we'll pass these welcome messages, the syllabus. I want to point out that I have a little introduction piece that we're kind of going to do live in class here, but I also have an online one, and there is a grade attached to this. So I want you to go in there and share just a little bit of information about yourself. You don't have to give people your life story. or personal details that you find uncomfortable sharing, you don't have to say too much. Share what you're comfortable with. If you're open to it, because other people can read these introductions as well, that's the point of it. You can reply to people. And if you want, connect with somebody, say, hey, you want to get together and here's my email, here's your phone number, whatever. That's on you, right? But it's a way to connect with people as well and get to learn about the people that we have here in the classroom. And like I said, we're going to do a little bit of introductions here in the classroom live in just a few minutes. I want to know who you are, what your names are, and how to address you. Just get to know you a little bit and what you know and don't know or want to do with your life, basically. On occasion, you will see stuff like this in the course shell that's marked as an activity. This is basically to take a little bit of time, especially if you're brand new here to Gateway, to poke around the course shell and try to figure out where stuff is, right? Especially if you've never done Brightspace before. And can I ask, how many of you are here for the very first time at Gateway? Nobody? All right. How many of you have never been in Brightspace? Okay, you guys are making my life. Oh, you've never been in Brightspace? No, I'm totally kidding. It's really not that bad. Basically, Brightspace will be how we deliver stuff. So if you get stuck on anything, I would especially encourage you to do it. Just like kind of click around and look at what stuff is out there. All right. I do want to do this little thing and then we'll do introductions. And you'll notice what this one talks about. Since most of you seem to be active students already, this should go pretty fast. But when you're coming into the IT programs, there's an expectation, and usually your academic advisor should tell you about this, that you need to have a computer to work with. Now, I want you to keep in mind that if you don't have a great computer system at home, you're always welcome to come to campus and use the system here. During fall and spring semester, we run open labs. So we have one classroom, and I don't know if it's usually this one or the one next door. That's usually open in the afternoons where you can come in, sit down, use a computer. The other thing that you can do is you can sign out a fob from the library to get access to either T301 across the hall, which is the computer support room, or the networking room. And you can access the room at any time with the fob if there's not a class in there, and sit down and use a computer. Also, if other instructors are teaching classes and there's open computers, if somebody's like, hey, can I come in and use a computer? I'll be like, yeah, go ahead. Fine. You know, our tax money paid for it, you may as well use it, right? It's sitting idle. There's also some other spots like the library, an example, that have machines, but here on this floor, all the computers are loaded up with the software we use for IT, so you don't have to install anything. I would still prefer to use your own computer, even when you're on campus. Personally, that's my recommendation, and that's how I operate. So I always carry my personal gear, whether it's a PC or a Mac or whatever, because I have complete control over it. If you're on a school machine, you can't install anything. If you borrow a machine from the library, which is possible if you don't have one, I don't know if you can install stuff on those. And guess what? When we do some work, you have to install software sometimes, right? So that's kind of an issue. If you're looking to buy a computer, and this is what this is intended for, because we do get people that are new or that maybe have been in the program and are realizing my computer is horrible, I need something better, right? And like I said before, if you're going to be a race car driver, you don't buy like a family sedan. You buy a hot rod and you soup it up, right? That's what IT people do. So I have some general recommendations here. These are not rules, but I want you to have a rewarding experience doing your work and not a frustrating one. So I have some minimums that are stated here. Doesn't mean that that's what you should get. You should probably go for the recommended amount. So for example, the first thing we would recommend is generally you should probably be on a Windows machine. If you're a Mac person, don't freak out. I'm a Mac person too, right? I'm going to recommend to you that either you run a virtual machine of Windows or bite the bullet and buy a Windows machine or find a way to dual boot your machine. And I don't know if that's possible with the M series chips on Apples anymore. In principle, you can do the work for this class on any platform, no problem. When you get to certain classes though, and you know, I'll just say like software classes, or you know, you're learning how to support Windows and computer support, you kind of need a Windows machine. And most IT work is done on Windows machine because most people have Windows computers and most jobs are related to it. You know, not a lot of professional enterprises dish out Macs to their employees unless they're in like graphic arts or creative fields typically. So if you're running a Windows machine, Windows 10, I would say, would be the absolute minimum OS at this point. Here on campus, we transitioned to Windows 11 over the last year, and all the machines now are Windows 11 because Windows 10 is going out of support or is already out of support. I'm not even sure. Having a modern version of Windows makes you more secure and will probably make you or give you the capability to run any software we push out to you. Most people, when they buy Windows computers, they get a consumer version of Windows, which is called Windows Home Edition. There are professional and education versions available that cost money typically, but the education version is available to you guys for free with a license key. I'm not going to do that today, but I will show you how to access that license key probably next week. So you can unlock additional features on your Windows machine, right? And there's no cost to it, right? So if you're running Windows Home, what you should know is that it doesn't have all the true features of Windows. This is kind of weird, right? It's good enough to game and surf and do that kind of stuff, but you don't have file encryption. You don't have remote desktop. You don't have a bunch of other high-end features like virtualization and things like that, that eventually you will need in some of your studies. Not for all programs, but for some. So you want to have a machine that's capable before you unlock that version of Windows, which is one of the reasons why you got to look at these specs. For CPUs, you want to have an i5 or better on a Windows machine. And if you're, you know anything about CPUs, and what I'm going to recommend is, okay, there's old i5s and there's new i5s, or old i7s and new i7s and i9s and all these like fancy processors. What you want to typically have is a modern i5, i7, or i9 that's at this point, I'd say 10th gen or newer. And if you're not sure, there's usually stickers right on the keyboard. Like mine says Core i7 10th gen right on that sticker right here. The other way you can find out is you can go into your system properties. And if your CPU says i7 and then it's followed by a number, it's usually a 4 or 5 digit number, a 5-digit number, the first 2 numbers of your version number. If you have an older CPU, it's not that it won't work, it will be significantly slow. My machine here that's sitting in front of me is about 4.5 years old now, but it was a cutting edge gaming machine when I bought it, and I paid a lot of money for it. So when you do go out and you shop for a laptop, if you're shopping, please don't go to Walmart or Target and grab the $300 model. You're going to be shopping more in the range of like 800 to 1,000 or above. That's where you get the power machines. So modern CPU, i5, i7, i9, or an AMD Ryzen equivalent, right? And if you guys don't know what that is, probably stay away from them.
Ryzen 5.
Yeah, I'd say Ryzen 5 or above is probably a good thing. As far as the RAM for your computer, I know I have 8 gigs at a minimum, and the reason I put that there is because I have fairly new Mac laptops with M series chips with only 8 gigs of RAM, and they're screamers, right? So it's totally feasible, right? On a PC though, I'm going to say 16 gigs is your functional minimum. And if I was buying a brand new computer right now, I would start at 32 gigs of RAM for an IT professional. All our lab computers here, I think, might be either 32 or 64 now, gigs of RAM. I just upgraded this machine. I bought it with 16 gigs of RAM, and I went up to 32. Well, it cost me like $45. I probably should have went up to 64. But it was on sale. Whatever. 32 is better than 60. Generally speaking, the more RAM you have on the computer, the more programs you can run simultaneously without it choking. Right? And it really can speed up the operations of your computer by having more RAM. For a hard drive, at an absolute minimum, you should have a 500 gig hard drive. My preference for you, if you're doing IT work, is you should really be at a terabyte or above, and it should be an SSD, a solid state drive. The reason I push that is because you can still buy budget machines that have regular what we call spinning platter hard drives that have like metallic discs inside that spin around like a CD. And those are about like 1/5 the speed of data delivery that an SSD is. So for example, my old laptop started out with a spinning platter drive. I would fire it up and it would take about like 4 or 5 minutes before it would boot, load up all the software, and I could functionally do something on it, right? I swapped out an SSD. I was booting in 20 seconds. It was just mind blowing. It was like that kind of a performance difference. So you have a machine with a spinning platter hard drive, consider possibly dropping in an SSD. It's not really that hard to do. But I would say a terabyte or more, especially if you're in development programs where you might load IDEs that can consume 100 gigabytes of disk space for a single software package, right? So it's kind of like loading Battlefield or something with all the DLCs and stuff. So just be mindful of that. You need ample space on your on your machine to store stuff. Some machines, like the one I have sitting in front of me, which is a gaming machine, I have 3 hard drive slots in this machine. I have 2 of them filled. I got, I think, 4 terabytes on one and 500 gigs on the other, something like that. It's insane, right? You know? But I still manage often to redline them and fill them, right? So having ample storage is important. One of the other key features that's important is this VTX feature, which is the ability of the hardware to be able to virtualize other operating systems. And this is really kind of an important one in certain programs. If you have a Mac, no brainer, it does it automatically. You don't even have to ask, right? If you have a PC, budget PCs will often exclude this feature, especially when they have budget CPUs, right? VTX is a feature, like if you walk into Best Buy and you walk up to the sales guy and he's like, hey, what do you need to know about this machine? They're really knowledgeable. And they're like, hey, does this thing have like the capability to virtualize other operating systems? I don't know. I'll ask my manager. This is kind of like the question. Like some guys will know, but pro grade machines will have this feature in the BIOS that enables you to flip a switch that you can virtualize other operating systems. So for example, in the web program, we teach people how to create like Android apps. And how do we know that the apps are working? We run a virtual Android system on top of Windows, which takes a slice of the CPU and a slice of the RAM and has exclusive access to it. So I can run Android while I'm running Windows. Or if I'm on a Mac, I can run Windows right over the top of the Mac OS at the same time. If you're in cybersecurity or networking or one of those other programs, you will often run Linux or other versions of Windows or whatever right over the top of your operating system. And if you don't have that feature, you won't be able to do it. So that's one that you have to kind of ask about or, basically research, But typically, if you get what we call a business class machine, or a gaming machine, engineering grade machine, those are the kind of machines you want. And usually, you're getting up into the 4-figure range to buy something like that. And because you guys are aspiring IT professionals, you should get a machine like that. And gaming machines are often a good option. I'm just putting it out there because they typically have all those features, right? They tend to be a little bit higher performance. Make sure your OS is up to date, whether whatever platform you're on. As I mentioned before, Windows 11 is our official OS here on campus. You need to have some sort of modern web browser. I'm a big fan of Chrome. Safari and Edge are basically variants of Chrome, so those are fine too. Firefox, I'm also a big fan of that one as a web developer. I think it's maybe the superior browser, but you do need to have some sort of a browser. We'll talk about the Office suites and how to access them as we kind of move forward here and start working on homework. And then whatever class you take will often have very specific software packages you need to install to do your specific work. This class here pretty much only requires an Office suite, Word, PowerPoint, and that's kind of it. That's all we do. So nothing too fancy for this class. But for your other classes, be mindful. Also, this course is accelerated. I have this little note in here. So normally, if I taught this in a 14-week semester, I would do 1 chapter a week, 1 unit at a time. Because we're condensed, we're doubling up. We're doing 2 units at a time, 2 chapters a week. And because each unit has 3 homework things, you're looking at 6 homework things a week. So be mindful of that you need to kind of keep up with that pace. And don't freak out to the volume of work. I'll show you that it's actually pretty easy once you get rolling. All right, let's do this little activity here. And I'm going to say the course intro is basically done. So I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'll publish this tomorrow in Unit 0.